On the Autocar show today, we pit the Maruti Vitara Brezza against the Ford EcoSport. There's the new Skoda Superb and Triumph's Bonneville T120 and Thruxton R.
Now this is a given that Maruti Suzuki's new Vitara Brezza is going to be a success. Why? Do the math. It's an SUV, actually better still, it's a compact SUV, so it's better for the urban environment. We know it's packaged really well, has a lot of features, and on top of that, it's priced really well. So the question is, should you be spending your money on this new upstart or the original fire-starter, the one that kicked off the sub-4 meter segment in earnest, the Ford EcoSport? Well, we're here to find out exactly that. Now, both these compact SUVs are aiming for the same slice of the pie, and so they do have some things in common. For instance, both are under 4 meters long and their ground clearance is virtually the same, but they are very different as well. The Brezza, for instance, is shorter and wider, giving it a more confident stance and a more proportionate look. The EcoSport is 25mm narrower and nearly 70mm taller in comparison, but the EcoSport's aggressive and sporty design, like the slim headlamps and the gaping grille, really set it apart. In comparison, the Brezza looks quite tidy. Apart from the slightly sporty bumper, you could call the Brezza's design a bit safe. And the story continues on the inside. Now the Vitara Brezza isn't the one that wows you with its dashboard design. It's smart, simple, and on the inside you can see several bits that are common across the Maruti Suzuki. Fold, steering wheel, power window switches, all very common. We've seen them for years. That aside, it has an upper hand, and that's in terms of the equipment and features on offer. There's this touchscreen unit here. We've seen it on other Marutis, but it's really nice to have it in this class of car as well. Works nicely. It has navigation, connects to iOS devices, so you can use some of the apps from here. Then lower down here is the control for the air conditioning unit, automatic climate control, and what's nice is that it's a very simple design and the switches and all work really nicely. Meanwhile, the EcoSport makes an impression with its techy, futuristic design for the dashboard. But the sea of buttons can get a bit confusing, and the bigger disappointment is the 3.5-inch low-res screen for the Sync infotainment system. It looks outdated and is hard to read on the move. Other than that, both these top-end variants have plenty of features in common, such as push-button start, steering-mounted audio controls, Bluetooth telephony, audio streaming, auto climate control, rear parking sensors, auto headlamps, and rain-sensing wipers. When it comes to safety, the EcoSport and Brezza have their own pluses. The Ford features Emergency Assist, which helps alert emergency services in case of an accident. And this top-spec Titanium Plus variant gets 6 airbags, while all the other variants get 2. That's the same as the Maruti. However, the Brezza is offering a driver-side airbag as standard from the base variant, while the passenger-side airbag and the ABS is an option from the base model as well. Interestingly, the Maruti is certified to meet frontal offset and side impact crash tests. In the cabin, the Brezza's front seats will feel comfortable on your drives, while the aggressively bolstered EcoSport seats might feel a bit tight for broader occupants. But when you step into the back, the EcoSport gets the under-thigh support just right. But the Brezza has one big advantage.
Now when it comes to the in-cabin experience, what really clinches the deal for the Vitara Brezza is the sense of space on the inside. You can see over there how much knee room I've got. I've got plenty of headroom so taller passengers can be accommodated. But that's not it. It's the width of the cabin that really works in its favor. Sitting 3 abreast will be fine, and for families where this will be the only car and they intend to do long distances in, it will make a difference.
However, better under-thigh support would have been appreciated. The Brezza though offers an armrest, and when it comes to the boot, the Vitara's is well shaped and will make it easier to store more luggage. The EcoSport however has the larger 362-litre boot, but it is narrower, so making the most of it will be a bit tricky. When you get on the move, you'll find that both compact SUVs are very different to drive. The Brezza uses the tried and tested 1.3-litre diesel engine. It comes in the 89 bhp state of tune we've seen on the CS. The EcoSport though packs a bit more in the engine department with a 1.5-litre engine with 99 bhp.
Now the EcoSport's larger engine gives it an advantage in terms of low-speed drivability. That's because it can just create more torque with less effort at low RPMs. And that means you have to make fewer gear shifts, especially when you're driving around at slow speeds. And that's good news for city traffic. Now drive hard and you'll find that this engine doesn't really have that punch as the revs climb.
Meanwhile, the Maruti on the other hand feels dull low down in the rev range. But as the revs climb...
Now the Vitara Brezza's motor comes into its own. When you let it rev it up past 2000 RPM, there's this nice slug of torque, ride that wave, let the revs build, and you have a decent amount of revs to play around with. You go past 4000 to about 4500 RPM, you can use it nicely. So when you find an open road, this feels nice and fun. Better than the EcoSport in the engine department there.
So it's really no surprise that the Vitara Brezza is faster than the EcoSport to 60 and 100 km an hour from standstill. But what is surprising is that it managed to offer faster in-gear acceleration as well. No doubt, a near 100 kg weight advantage over the EcoSport has helped the Vitara big time. In terms of suspension and steering hardware, both compact SUVs use similar designs. And in the case of the Maruti, it just doesn't put a foot wrong. The steering is direct, the grip from the wider tires is great, and it doesn't roll all that much either. And its high-speed stability is just plain fantastic. It feels predictable and solid in the handling department. So for most people, this would be just fine. But the enthusiasts might want something more.
Where the Brezza just can't match the EcoSport is in terms of the experience behind the wheel when you're in the mood to have some fun. I mean, you look at the steering wheel, it's light, precise, so communicative. You can feel what kind of tarmac is running under the tires. And then there's the suspension, just going for a turn, it just tucks in, there's no hesitation. It's for DNA.
Surprisingly, when it comes to ride comfort, the Ford isn't left behind either.
The EcoSport's ride quality is also pretty good. I mean, for the kind of lightly broken and bumpy tarmac that we get in the cities, it does a pretty good job of absorbing all of that. It's just that when the going gets a little bit rougher, you'll find that you hear a bit more of the suspension noise in the cabin.
The Vitara Brezza felt a bit stiffer in comparison, but it was very impressive because of how quiet its cabin really is. There really is no road noise, suspension noise or tire noise creeping into the cabin. So you can see how close things are between these two compact SUVs, and the Vitara Brezza can sneak only a slight advantage in terms of company-claimed fuel efficiency. However, the Maruti's big advantage, its price tag, has been countered by the EcoSport with a massive price cut. And that means both these cars are running neck and neck. So which is the one that deserves your money?
Now Ford's EcoSport, it's been our car of the year. It was a game changer. It set the template of what to expect from a compact SUV for the urban environment. And really, it does stand out because of its striking looks, its really strong driving dynamics, and because of that, its appeal is very high, particularly to a certain segment of the market. And then on the other hand, we have this, the Vitara Brezza from Maruti Suzuki, which really excels in terms of the cabin space it offers, but on other fronts, it just doesn't feel all that exceptional. The interiors, the ride quality, the drivability, everything just works right. It may not excel on any particular front, but when you stitch it all together, you get a really strong package. What you have here is the winner of this comparison test.
After the break, does Skoda's new Superb live up to its legacy? And Triumph's T120 and Thruxton R.
I'm in the rolling and attractive hills of Coorg to drive a car I've been waiting for a few months. Now I've already driven this all-new Superb in the UK and I know how good it is, but I want to drive it here with the India setup suspension and the India price, and I want to know exactly how much of a luxury car is it, and is it still phenomenal value. We have the car for the day. Let's see what it's like. What I really like about this car as against the earlier Superb is the sharp, confident detailing. Look at these headlights, look at the cut at the bottom there, and it has a nice flared wheel arch. Also, Skoda's new grille makes it look really attractive. And if you go around the side, you can see the fantastic proportions of this long wheelbase and the coupe-like roof. It's really pretty nice. What people also love about this car is that it has a 625-litre boot. It's massive. You can carry any reasonable amount of luggage, and that's another reason why this car has been so popular earlier. Of course, if you want even more, you can fold the seats down. Also, another thing, take a look at this gap. This is the India-specific suspension, the rough road package as it were. But we'll take a look at that later and see how it impacts the ride of the car. But before we get going, let's take a look at the interior. The Superb's calling card has always been seat comfort, especially at the rear, where the seats are large enough for good support. The cabin on this car is even wider than the earlier car, and that means you can sit three abreast with a bit more comfort. The center seat, however, isn't very comfortable. And then there's a large central tunnel. The rear air conditioning vent has the temperature control, and that's great, but there's no blower control and no vents in the B pillar either. So the cabin does tend to get a bit stuffy unless you adjust the blowers up front correctly. The Indian Skoda comes with a variety of engines and gearboxes. The 1.8 petrol puts out a strong 177 bhp and comes mated to either a manual 6-speed gearbox or a 7-speed twin-clutch DSG. The 2-litre diesel comes with only a 6-speed twin-clutch or DSG and develops 174 bhp. The Superb is available in 5 versions and 2 basic trim levels, Style, which is a lower one, and Lauren and Clement, the more luxurious one. Now the version we have with us is a 1.8 petrol or the 1.8 TSI as it's known, and in this, guys, it makes 180 horsepower and it's just a phenomenal engine. I mean, there's no holding back. It's refined at lower speeds. When you're cruising, you put it in a high gear, it's just quiet and silent and smooth. And then when you want to open it up, you take it down the box, you put your foot down, and it becomes quite a snarly, smooth beast that just throws you forward. Really one of the best 4-cylinder engines around. Refined and powerful, the engine serves up a nice shot of torque as soon as you get off the line, and it feels ever ready to serve up power. What's also really nice is the way the 7-speed DSG works with the engine. It's almost perfectly mated, really nice and slick and smooth at low speed, fast when you want it to be. There really aren't too many things you could complain about. Okay, when you're really pushing it, it is a bit hesitant to downshift right at the point you want, but then the Superb isn't a sports car and we shouldn't expect it to drive like one. This car is meant for cruising, and that is something it does incredibly well. Now the earlier Superb, despite its size, was really nice to drive. It was sharp, it was incisive, and it felt like a much smaller car. This car, because it's been softened and because it's been tuned to make it ride well, isn't really as nice in corners. It's a bit too comfortable when you throw it into a corner, and it rolls a bit, it feels a bit soft. Of course, it still is a bit of fun, you still do get a bit of enjoyment, but it isn't that really nice, sharp to drive Superb we had earlier. Most of its owners, however, will relish the back seat experience, the more important seat in this car. And that's where the Superb excels. What's also impressive is just how well this car rides. Now, I've just driven over some really fairly decent sized bumps, but the car is just flat. It just soaks up everything. There's a soft layer of the suspension that eats up the bumps, and unless you go over some really big and hard, sharp edge bumps, this thing is really one of the best riding cars you can have. Not too much pitching, just flat and great ride quality. Fantastic job. But it's not just the ride quality. The Superb was always liked because it offered as much space as cars twice its price, and it does that even better on this new version. Of course, the most important seat in the house is the back seat. Loads more legroom in this new car, lots of more width, and of course, as ever, a great comfortable seat. Lots of thigh support, good support for the lower back. The backrest is a bit upright. It is slightly a bit more upright than I would have liked, but you have plenty of headroom, nice vent here, and just one of the most comfortable places to be. If you like the earlier Superb, this new car is going to absolutely thrill you. To begin with, it looks much nicer. On the inside, the cabin is just as comfortable. Here in the back, which is the important seat, there's a lot more room, plenty of comfort, and you have a good amount of features. Yeah, alright, a few plastics are not as good as we would like. We'd like a bigger touchscreen, some more luxury, a bit more wood. The chrome is not as good as on the earlier car, but all in all, this new Superb is just as good or even better a luxury car than the earlier one. And that's why the Superb is pretty unbeatable as a value luxury car.
So last year Triumph introduced us to the whole new Bonneville range, built all new from the ground up with 5 different bikes. Now the best part is 3 of these bikes will be coming to India, and today we're here in Cascais in Portugal, and we are going to ride the Bonneville T120. The T120 is powered by a new 1200cc parallel twin motor that gets liquid cooling. Designated HT or high torque, its 79 bhp of peak power isn't this engine's focus. That focus lies on its impressive peak torque figure of 10.7 kgm at just 3100 rpm. All this low-end torque enables the T120 to amble about town easily, and once you cross 2500 rpm, the bike surges ahead with much gusto. The revamped ergonomics and fantastic ride quality make this a very relaxed and relaxing motorcycle to ride. As expected, the T120 is a bit lazy in the corners, but the new chassis makes it lighter and more enjoyable than before. The T120's dose of modernity includes traction control, ABS, a ride-by-wire throttle, and even a couple of riding modes. So the Bonneville T120 is a very likable motorcycle. But if greater emotions need to be stirred, this should do the trick.
the Triumph Thruxton R. Think of this cafe racer as the bad boy of the Bonneville family. Muscular, minimalist, retro but modern too.
Now it's easy to see why we are so excited about the new Thruxton R. Well, look at it. It looks like a proper cafe racer. At the same time, it has all the high-end components that make it a proper sport bike.
Yes, the Thruxton R is wearing some high-tech kit from Japan and some Swedish gold.
At the front, you get these big piston Showa forks. At the back, you have Olin suspension. Both are fully adjustable. The rake angle has been brought in even more as compared to the T120. The T120 already had a pretty tight rake at 25.5 degrees. This one is under 23 degrees.
That's not all. A shorter swing arm has brought the wheelbase down to a sporty 1415 mm. The 17-inch wheels are wrapped in some super sticky Pirelli Rosso Corsa tires. And don't worry about braking cause it's got Brembo monoblock calipers. Combine that with a fairly light 203 kg dry weight and you get a vintage looking motorcycle that flicks through corners like a modern day naked. It is incredibly fun and confident. While overall stopping power is phenomenal, the initial bite from the Brembos is slightly dull. The end result is a sharp and predictable handling package that's fun on twisty roads and possibly on track days. My only annoyance was that gripping the slim tank was quite tough and made hard braking quite painful. Powering the Thruxton R is the HP or high power version of the 1200cc parallel twin engine from the T120. A bumped up compression ratio, lighter crank, remapped ECU and larger airbox take the peak power up to 96 bhp and peak torque is now 11.4 kgm. But with over 10 kgm available from a low 2000 rpm, the Thruxton R pulls in a strong and linear fashion once you open the gas. I'm glad the bike boasts of a third riding mode, Sport. If you enjoy corners, this mode serves up the sharpest throttle response. So whether you're riding at relaxed city speeds or blasting down the mountain road, the Thruxton R's motor is highly enjoyable. This bike is a very unique proposition. It gives you a heavy dose of nostalgia with its gorgeous cafe racer design and at the same time thrills you with the riding experience. So whether you're a hardcore classic bike enthusiast, a total modern day sport bike nut or anyone in between, the Triumph Thruxton R is certain to impress.
It really is a proper cafe racer with an extra shot of speed.